Alright you guys, so wanted to get you up another video as soon as I could. I've been thinking a lot about what I was going to actually film here. So I wanted to talk about optics. I wanted to talk about setting up different rifles to use different optics, what the purpose is for, and kind of give you some information so you could decide which optic is best for you. As you can see here on the table, I have one of my personal pistol builds. This one has a 3x magnifier behind a Romeo 7 green dot. We'll talk about that here in a minute, but that is one of my favorite setups here, but we'll talk some of the pros and cons. Right here, this is my Wyndham weaponry. This is the heavy barrel, HBC 15. Comes with the heavy barrel. It is a carbine length, so it has the shorter length gas system. I'm running just a regular basic red dot on here. I have the Daniel Defense fixed rear sight, and this has the fixed front sight on it as well. This was kind of what I wanted to go with as a basic service build, something that you would build as a first rifle, a do-everything rifle, and something that is going to be battle-proven, that's not going to give you many issues. So if your red dot does go out, you have the fixed front sight post, and you also have the fixed rear sight. You can absolute co-witness with this through the red dot, which is why I set it up that way. That way, if anything ever happens here, you don't even have to take the red dot off, because you are able to see your sights directly through it as well. So this was more of a utilitarian purpose rifle build, and I wanted to keep it that way. There's no light on it. It's a very slim line. This is a throw it over your back and go. I also have different muzzle devices on each one of these. This is a Strike Industries King Comp. This rifle had a lot of recoil since it was that carbine length gas system. With a shorter gas tube up here, you're getting a lot more violent action through the rifle itself. It's pushing a lot more gas back because you don't have that excessive dwell time with a longer gas system. I also went with an H2 buffer in here, and I went with a heavier buffer spring. So I did what I could to mitigate the recoil, but I wanted a heavy barrel. I wanted a carbine length gas system in my first rifle because they are proven to be rugged and reliable, and that's what this rifle is for me. This has been through a lot of different rifle classes, fighting rifle classes with me. It has a flat-faced single stage trigger in there. It's a drop-in trigger, and it's absolutely amazing. I would recommend, once you get some time behind the rifle, to tune it to your likings. That's why I put the heavier buffer spring, and I put a compensator on the front. This compensator is nice because it also has some kind of flash reduction with the prongs on the end. They're not just for show, they actually work. The second rifle that I put together, the second rifle that I built, was this Aero Precision. I threw this upper on. It's just a regular A2 stock. I went with something that wasn't going to be crazy. I actually built this for my wife. I have Troy flip-up sights here on it, front and rear. They're very nice. They're very robust. I wanted to make sure that she had something set up similar to what I had with my first rifle. Now, this is a mid-length gas system, and it does have a A2. It has a rifle length buffer tube, and it has a rifle spring in it as well. So heavier buffer weight, heavier tension spring, and with the mid-length, this gun right here, this rifle performs and shoots better than any other rifle that I own, unless we're talking the piston rifle. So Out of the regular direct impingements, the way this is set up is probably my favorite. It does have the light on it. I wanted her to have everything that she could that would make this beneficial to her. So almost all the slings I'm running out here are Magpul. I have a Magpul sling on this. I have a Magpul sling on another rifle. 3 Magpul slings, a Blue Force Gear sling, and a original SOE sling. So I absolutely love this rifle as well. I brought this to a couple classes and it performed amazingly well. I didn't really go with a compensator on this rifle. I went with a 4-prong flash hider. So it doesn't really reduce recoil, which I didn't need to do since this is a rifle length buffer and a mid-length gas system. This handles very easily. It's almost like shooting a AR-22, but this is also just a basic red dot as well. This one has a more precise dot on it, so I kind of wanted to talk about that as well. So this one has a 2 MOA dot. It is very small. It's very crisp. This is a Sightmark Wolverine. Runs on 1 AA battery. Absolutely amazing sight for the money. I have not had an issue with it. It's been on this rifle for 5 years now. This has a SIG Romeo 5 on it. So the first rifle I ever built had that SIG Romeo 5 on it. And this is a 4 MOA dot. This is more of a combat dot. It's more of something that you would run in like CQB, where you want a larger dot. You're taking fast shots at shorter distances. The Aero Precision build here is running the 2 MOA dot because this rifle is one that I used for taking shots out to 200 to 300 yards. I can do that with a red dot as long as it's super crisp. The third option that I have, this may look like just a regular red dot here to you guys, but this is a prism sight. So the difference with the prism on this Vortex is that it has a glass etched reticle. So if your battery ever dies out in the field, you ever run into that issue where your battery does die, this reticle is there and can be used no matter what. I really like that. I also have a slight stigmatism in my eye, so some of the red dots kind of flower a little bit for me, so making precise shots with them are hard. This one, I'll get a picture up. The reticle is 2 rings around a 1 MOA dot. It's either a 1 MOA or a 2 MOA. I'll look it up for you and put it in here. But you can change the color on this either red or green. So it has the capability of being very precise. It also has the large rings around it. I'll put the reticle up here for you guys. The larger rings can be used as a BDC as well, so you can actually gauge your ranges. I would recommend shooting it with different weights. This is a SIG 516 upper, so this is a short stroke, piston driven upper. It's a very, very reliable upper. I don't know why SIG stopped making these uppers, but they had several military contracts and they have a record that is absolutely flawless. You can see the torture tests on these. I did fit this with a light, so this does have a light on it. All of my lights that I run are momentary on pressure from the back, so I don't run the pressure pads. The only one that has a pressure pad on it is my wife's rifle. So I wanted to make sure she didn't have to break her grip or that she didn't have to do anything fancy, so she could just have her hand up there and press it and it comes on. With this and all my other builds that have lights on them, it's just the pressure switch on the back, the button on the back for your momentary on and off. I don't like having a flashlight that stays on. I would rather have the momentary so that you don't have an accidental discharge of that white light. Now, this upper itself is absolutely amazing. This is probably one of my favorite setups. And with this optic, the Prism optic, I would take this rifle setup over almost anything else on the table, just because you have the option to run it off of only the reticle, and you don't have to worry about having those batteries. Your battery can completely die, and you're not going to have an issue with this optic running. So this is also another really great setup here if you're trying to get into something. If you do have astigmatism and red dots look like they either flower or they look like a sunburst, this will alleviate all of that. Can't speak highly enough about the SIG 516 upper. It's an absolutely amazing. That's on a Spikes lower, has a Franklin Armory binary trigger in it. So you guys, if you have seen the channel, you have seen my Ruger S-FAR. I purchased this rifle about 2 months ago. I've ran a bunch of rounds through it. One of the issues that I had was that it does not like to cycle on gas setting 2 yet. I've ran a couple hundred rounds through it, and sometimes it'll work, sometimes it doesn't. So I keep it on setting 1 for now. With that being said, I switched over here to the SIG Tango 1-6 on here, because this is primarily going to be something I'm going to use for, 50 to 300 yards. So I wanted to get an optic that was set up specifically for that. I kind of want to stretch the feet on this rifle and see how much accuracy and how far I can get the shots. So this is a LPVO low-powered variable optic. This is a 1-6. The glass is extremely clear on it. It does have an illuminated reticle, and this does have the BDC reticle, but it also has some of your mil dots so that you can lead whether the target is moving or whether you have very strong wind. You can lead your reticle and get those shots placed perfectly. So I just really wanted to touch on a couple of the different optics options. On this one here, on the PWS, I went with this flip out of the way 3x magnifier, and it's on this SIG Romeo 7. So this is a really, really good setup. It kind of reminds me of like a Mark 18, something of that platform. Not that it's anywhere near that platform at all. In aesthetics, maybe. In performance, I think this is light years ahead. This is a long stroke piston PWS Mark 111 Pro. The recoil is very minimal on this. It's a heavier upper, so I'm not gonna lie, this is quite heavy for a pistol build or a short barreled rifle, depending on which form you would like to fill out. But this would be my setup if anything ever happened and I had to take something and go at a moment's notice. This would be the setup I would take. And I'm running the Surefire light on here. This is a G2, and I just got a regular mount on it. So like I said, I try to keep everything streamlined and simple. This is something I would throw in my vehicle, because if I had to get out of town really fast or something was going on, this will clear rooms. This will take shots out to 300 yards. And with the setup, with the 3x magnifier, it gives you a little more ability. So you can gauge targets, you can range targets at a greater distance. This rifle with 62 grain ammunition is capable of reaching out 200 to 300 yards with ease. All right, you guys, so I had to switch cameras. The battery on the other one died. So that kind of proves my theory here about running the red dot optics with the batteries. Make sure you're going to have backup sights on your rifle unless you're going to have a optic such as this. So with the low power variable optic, I don't run backup sights, and that's primarily because with this rifle, I am going to be doing a specific task. Mainly, I'm going to be engaging targets 300 meters, 300 yards or so or further. With something up close, such as this build here on the table, the PWS, any of these, you're going to notice that there are backup sights on them. One of the only ones that I'm not running backup iron sights on is the SIG 516. The reason why I'm not running backup sights on this rifle particularly is because of the prism optic. If the batteries die on this optic, I still have a usable reticle. So just a couple things for you guys to think about whenever you're building out your kit, whenever you are building a rifle for a specific task. The optic that you are going to want is going to be determined by the rule in which you are setting that rifle up for. It's not uncommon for people to have more than one AR-15 or more than one defensive rifle. I choose to have a couple, and that's only because if anything ever happened and I needed to give one of these to one of my friends to protect themselves in a very bad situation, I want to make sure that they are going to have something they can use that is very simple and easy to use for the most part. Also, I'm blessed with the ability to be able to afford them, and I have an addiction to collecting and setting them up for different needs and uses. So I start with very plain rifles and I work my way up to different ones. I have direct gas impingement. I also have 2 different piston style uppers, and that's basically because of the track record of the piston driven AR-15 platforms and what they're capable of, how long they can go without being cleaned, and things such as that nature. But I just wanted to get this video up to show you guys a couple different setups, sighting setups that I run, and just to give you a breakdown of what I use them for. So again, anything that's just a basic red dot I'm using for pretty close shots. Primarily it's going to be 100 yards and in. With a lot of the red dots, you're going to be focused at, maybe 20 yards at the furthest. They're going to be set up for CQB. They're going to be set up for personal defense. You don't need a magnified optic. With the magnified optics, it's just giving you a little more capability. This platform here is going to be able to get you to 300 yards with ease. Going to be very easy to use at that distance. This platform here is going to get you out as far as you want to go. You'll be able to take skilled shots out to 600 yards with a 1-6. Theoretically, you could take shots out to 1,000 yards, but you're not going to see bullet impact. You're not going to be able to identify targets at that distance. So at 1,000 yards, you'll be able to see a normal size silhouette with a 1-6, but you're not going to be able to get the clarity to make your distinction between friend or foe, or if they're armed or not. And with a defensive rifle, which is what mainly I have these set up for, you're not going to be able to justify taking shots at that distance anyways. You're going to want something like this that you can readily clear a room with, that is relatively lightweight. This thing is very lightweight. It is a very rugged and reliable platform, and I would recommend this to anybody who is looking for a first-time rifle that is building something that can do everything and doesn't have any extra bells or whistles that they don't need. So once again, you guys, I want to thank you for watching the video. Let me know what optics you're running and what setups you're running on your rifles. These are a couple of the ones that I'm running, and they all have a different purpose.